You know, there's something about Gawain that I only recently realized. Since I usually focus more on lore and theory than gameplay, I started noticing a pattern with this guy. Gawain actually has a lot going for him. Tons of feats, solid lore, and a design that's honestly pretty handsome. He's chivalrous, loyal, and often written as someone people can easily build stories around. Lore-wise, he's both cool and quirky. You've got the Gorilla Knight, the knight empowered by the sun, his legendary ability to cook nothing but mashed potatoes and so on. And a lot of his fate portrayal still pulls straight from Arthurian legend. His fight with the Green Knight, his conflict with Lancelot, and especially his absolute loyalty to the Lion King in the Camelot chapter. That loyalty also comes from guilt. Since in the original legend, Gawain leaves King Arthur alone to deal with Mordred because of his personal feelings toward Lancelot. That regret becomes a huge part of what drives him in the story. Or, at least, that's a big part of it. But there's another trait pulled from later Arthurian legends that fate really leans into, and that's Gawain being a ladies' man. For now, I'm gonna focus on this one. Now sure, this is an adaptation, it's anime. Exaggeration kind of comes with the territory. But compared to his other legendary traits, this one feels way more amplified, to the point where it starts giving him this borderline pervert impression. In the Fate series, that trait gets pushed front and center and becomes a pretty big part of his identity, something he even openly admits. What's funny is that this side of him sometimes feels bigger than everything else. It's like the writers wanted him to be a gentle, noble knight, but also kind of a pervert, just subtle enough that it doesn't completely ruin the image of the Knights of the Round Table. That's the vibe I get, at least. And the weird thing is, it comes off as oddly pure. He's like this chivalrous, honorable pervert. He protects the innocent, acts polite and respectful, but is also very aware of assets, front and back. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's full-on menace behavior. The easiest examples are his interactions with characters like Passionlip or Barghest. He openly compliments their bodies, and if someone calls him out on it, he doesn't even get mad. He just treats it like part of his charm. But it doesn't stop there. With Gawain, this exaggerated trait even spills into family-adjacent territory. Like him teaming up with Lancelot to convince his Aunt Artoria to wear a bunny suit, or wishing that his younger sister Gareth would grow up to be as well-built as Barghest. Now, I'm not trying to jump straight to incest or anything like that. Like I said, he still feels like a genuinely gentle guy in his own weird way. It could just be him wanting the best for them, like reaching their full potential or whatever. But still, it's a bit much. And that's what I actually want to talk about today. Lately, I've been noticing this kind of thing more and more across different media, and sometimes it honestly annoys me. Not always, but when it happens, it can completely overshadow everything else a character is. When I started looking at FGO characters more closely, I noticed a few cases of this. Not a lot, but enough to stand out. I don't really know the perfect term for it, but it's basically when an adaptation takes one of a character's most recognizable traits, often from later development, and turns it into their whole thing, usually for clarity, humor, or mass appeal. The character feels different, not because they slowly changed, but because the adaptation starts with an already exaggerated version of who they were. I guess in simple terms, it's a character exaggeration. You've probably seen this too, right? When a character gets adapted into a new story, game, anime, or remake, the writers pick the most recognizable traits and push them really hard, so the character is easy to identify right away. Subtle details get dropped. One trait becomes their entire personality. The whole "this is their thing now" treatment. You know what I mean. A really easy example is Juvia from Fairy Tail. I'm pretty sure almost everyone here has watched Fairy Tail at some point. Cool cast, great, proportions, and the power of friendship. Who skipped that? Juvia starts as a powerful water mage who already gets solid character development early in Fairy Tail. But once she joins the guild, the series cranks her love-struck side up to 11. She always had jealousy issues, but now they're heavily exaggerated. Almost every scene with her revolves around love. The anime adaptation especially pushes this even harder, like when she first meets Lucy. In the manga, she casually says, "Oh hey, love rival." Then Lucy just casually said, "I'm really not." But in the anime, she glares and yells "love rival" while blasting Lucy with dark vibes. And over time, her achievements and feats get heavily overshadowed until she's mostly known as just the jealous type character. You see that too, right? I kinda want to talk about this exaggeration phenomenon and give a few examples I've noticed, though not all of them. Well, I guess I can just show you the next one after Gawain. Another really obvious one is none other than the King of Knights herself. The poster girl of the franchise, the original main heroine, Artoria Pendragon. And the trait that gets exaggerated the most? Her food addiction. Her hunger, specifically. Back in Fate Stay Night or UBW, we already knew she had a big appetite. She's often shown eating, and honestly it was kinda cute, especially when you consider how she grew up versus where she is now. But as the series goes on, that trait keeps getting amplified through every adaptation. Parody spin-offs like Carnival Phantasm and Grand Carnival straight up portray her as someone who never stops eating, and that's not even a joke. She eats non-stop. Then there's Amiya Dinner, which basically locks this dynamic in. Shiro cooks, Artoria eats, every episode. And in FGO, even when her original Saber version barely shows up, her variants carry the same gluttony trait. There's even a moment where she gets straight up delirious from hunger on an island and starts thinking with her stomach. Whether she's in her regular outfit, which she quickly ditches, or her summer form, she'll instantly agree to anything as long as food is involved. If all 3 dialogue options mention food in some way, she's in. It's honestly reached the point where fans can tell which Artoria likes what kind of food just from her dialogue. Like the alter versions love junk food, the regular ones prefer more proper meals, and so on. That's how far this one trait has been pushed. After that example, you probably already have someone in mind, right? And let me guess, it's probably this woman. Mostly because of her running bad civilization joke. Altera is a major character from another Fate title. In her original appearance in Fate Extella, she's a very serious character, calm, stoic, and heavy on philosophy and tragedy. You guys already know her lore. She's tied to some of the most important stuff in the entire Fate universe and all that. Then she shows up in Fate Grand Order. But here's the thing. FGO already has a ton of serious, quiet, cool, and emotionless badass characters. So instead of repeating that same vibe, it feels like the devs mostly decided to use Altera as a joke character, except for a few important story moments. And that's the interesting part. In her original material, she's a heavy, dramatic character. But in FGO, they take one recognizable trait, her blunt, judgmental worldview, and blow it up into her whole identity. The result? A meme-worthy character that people mainly remember for jokes. This is a really clear one of the example of character exaggeration, where an adaptation amps up one trait for humor and clarity, like I mentioned earlier. You can even see it early on, before she had bigger roles in events like All the Statesmen or the Christmas events. For example, in Blackbeard's Valentine return gift scene, she literally just shows up to cut him in half. That moment mostly exists, so Fuji can crack a joke referencing Lev's death in Septum. Honestly, I don't see much else going on there. Then, of course, she drops another bad civilization line, and that becomes her running gag. At this point, everyone just hears it in their head whenever Altera does something funny. And then there's Jaguar Warrior, or Taiga. And good lord, this one is just too much. She's supposed to basically be Taiga, but what we get feels more like Taiga on crack, or straight up Tiger Dojo Taiga rather than the real deal. Her personality is pushed way past normal. Honestly, I don't even think Jaguar Warrior herself is the reason for this character exaggeration. It feels more like her FGO version cranked everything up. She comes off as a weird composite of original Taiga, Tiger Dojo Taiga, and even a bit of Neko Arc energy. You know how FGO does this sometimes. They want to reference older stuff, but instead of picking one version, they just mash everything together. Yeah, so those are some characters with exaggerated traits, at least the ones I noticed. You can probably find more on your own, so feel free to share them too. Now, still talking about it, do you think this is okay, like writing-wise? Personally, I think it can be bad, because that kind of shift sometimes means the writers forget the smaller, nuanced parts of the character. But there is a positive side. Sometimes the exaggerated version ends up being more popular than the original. It just happens that way sometimes. And this kind of thing usually happens in short stories, or in stories where a character doesn't really get enough time to fully show themselves. So the author just pushes their most recognizable trait to remind us that they're still there. In a way, it all comes back to the author and the readers. But that's just what I think. How about you guys? Do you have any opinions on this exaggeration phenomenon, especially in FGO? Pour them out in the comments, and let's talk about it more. For now, click subscribe, share this video somewhere, and I'll see you guys next time.